And this adds further tension to those disputes by, as I said, by making the countries more authoritarian, less developed, and hence, whenever we have these economic and democratic crises, they tend to explode mostly on ethnic conflict. So I think this dimension should not be neglected. And I'd like to end on the positive note of what are the opportunities. Sometimes it's better. It's hard to say this, but if you have economic contexts where youth do not have opportunities to develop properly, sometimes it's great for them to go abroad, get educated, and get skills in the workplace environment, and a lot of them will come back. And that's a net benefit for society. Like there was even some studies in the case of Albania, for example, that were done by the Harvard team, Ricardo Hausmann, of the positive impact, for example, that the return of migrants from Greece and Italy during the crisis in Greece and Italy almost 10 years ago, who came back to Albania, because those countries were in crisis, and a lot of skilled migrants came back with a lot of capital, money and skills that they could better use in Albania than in Greece or Italy, which were in crisis. And there's a visible economic impact of those skilled workers. If you go to Tirana now, how much it has improved. For example, the restaurant scene, the food and the agriculture sector has really benefited from the skills of these migrants who have returned. So the migrants also create a lot of new connections. They go abroad, they get connected to value chains, to companies, and then they can use these connections to outsource or some of the production facilities back in the Balkans. You see this a lot in Kosovo, for example. Now, we have a large diaspora that works, for example, in Switzerland and Germany in the construction sector. And what they're doing is that they're becoming a bridge, and then, because they know people in their home country and they find suppliers, and they're now moving some of the production processes in Kosovo, in their villages, to their families. And sort of creating that development that we need. So, the challenge now will be to make this migration circular. And this is the biggest challenge in the Balkans. There are positive signs also with this phenomenon that's called now nearshoring, after COVID. A lot of the production, there's this talk now of decoupling the economy from China, for example, in the West. COVID has shown that the globalized economy cannot, sustain these kind of big shocks. So the West is bringing in closer to home, sometimes even in their own countries, for example, in the US or in European countries, they're bringing manufacturing back. But they're also bringing it in some less developed countries that are nearer to Europe. And there's a huge opportunity now for the Balkans to do this. And there are already some signs that a lot of the companies that are moving some processes from China, India, and these faraway countries where there can be very big disruptions of supply, moving them closer, and the Balkans are like at the gate or within Europe, or at the gate of the European Union, but within Europe. There are also new opportunities emerging from the new digital economy. A lot of there's a change in the work culture now, where it doesn't matter where you are to work. And a lot of skilled people are coming into, so Balkan countries have to become attractive also to attract not just, Balkan populations, but also foreigners, especially if you're Mediterranean or like Montenegro or Albania and you have a seaside. You can also get new workers and have sort of migrants come to our countries, where they can pay for less taxes and have more and sort of pay lower prices for products and get the kind of salaries and benefits that they can get in the West. And I think there will also be, and the last but not least, migration also creates some positive political change. We've seen that sometimes diaspora, in some cases in the Balkans, can be more nationalistic and regressive, but in a lot of cases, it can also help produce change, democratic change, especially when it's engaged in voting, because they're less connected to the political structures at home. They're more free. So they you know, by sending in money, but most importantly by kind of living in these Western advanced democracies, they develop new concepts about democracy. They see how proper democracies work, and they kind of transmit that knowledge, and they raise these political expectations. So the story of migration, you know, it has a lot of risks, especially if the skilled workers keep leaving. The challenge now is how to make this more circular, how to create better living conditions, especially in bigger cities and small towns, you know, like services like health and education, good schools for kids. These are the concerns that is driving the middle classes, the 30-plus-year-olds, to leave abroad and decide not to risk and stay in the Balkans. And I think this should be the message that is transmitted to political elites and to any decision maker and stakeholder in our political and social processes. So I'll end there and leave it open for discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Agon, for your intervention. It was very interesting, and also especially that what you mentioned, that this circular movement, benefits of coming back. Well, it would be more fruitful if more people could come, and the factor that would influence in this, I think, is to revert the phenomena, to overcome what the factors that made them leave the country. Now, I would not make more comments. I would invite the attendants to ask questions. I hope they will have. There are also many more people that are following us by streaming in YouTube, but I expect from you people who are, you know, the young people that are attending us and are here, that could ask questions to the panelists. Anyway, yes, Jelena Bratic, please.
Hello. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned quite a few times that young people and youth is actually in a focus of everyone's work. I would say also like the government work and the activists and everything. But do you think that's actually the case? Because we have so many young people leaving the country. And you also mentioned, Marija, you talked about North Macedonia and the scenario in your country. So do you actually think that youth is in a focus of everyone's work, and that the well-being and the great like quality of work with youth is promised with from the government and other organizations?